The revamp of Cricket South Africa's governance structure continues to be hampered by a standoff between the Interim Board and the Members' Council. At the heart of the stalemate is the Members' Council's refusal to accept some of the key tenets of the Nicholson Report, which calls for, amongst other things, a majority independent board and an independent chair. The Interim Board says 8 out of 14 votes of the Members' Council voted against an independent board. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Interim Board Chair, Dr. Stavros Nicolaou. Now, Stavros, thank you for joining us. It's been almost a decade since the Nicholson inquiry and the subsequent Nicholson report, and yet it seems that what was found to be at the heart of the rot in Cricket South Africa and the ability to turn that around has fallen on deaf ears. What's the state of play at the moment?
Simon, firstly, thanks very much for having me on your program. The standoff, as you put it, is around a very simple governance matter. This interim board was appointed about 4 months ago. We have about a month left in which time we have to execute on a 9-point mandate that was presented to us. Core to that mandate is to restore governance and to set Cricket South Africa on a suitable and appropriate governance pathway, as is required not only coming out of the Nicholson report, but also as is both a domestic and international requirement. The two principles that are core to restoring governance are, number one, a majority independent board, which is a well-accepted governance principle everywhere, including in our own country, and secondly, that we should have an independent chair chairing the board. These are both well-established governance principles, and unless we are able to make headway on these two, what we call non-negotiable principles, I'm afraid we cannot restore governance to Cricket South Africa. And we, on the one hand, are commending the 5 members, council members that voted in favour of this. They stand on the right side of history. And then, unfortunately, there are 8 affiliates belong to the Members' Council that voted against. So we're hoping that in the next few days, there'll be some introspection. We are due to meet the Minister imminently, and we hope that introspection between now and meeting the Minister, some of those 8 members that are standing on the wrong side will cross over to the right side of history and accept an independent majority board.
And that's clearly what the Nicholson report was talking to. Administrators who have too much of a vested interest in sport, not willing to give up their little patches and little fiefdoms within the game. And this has been literally perpetuated by the vote in the Members' Council. So what can be done?
Simon, I think firstly, let me say what will happen if nothing is done. What will happen is the game has had many setbacks in the past few years, governance failures, elements of dysfunctionality. And I'm afraid if cricket doesn't get its act together, regrettably, the reputation, the image of cricket will continue to erode. And eventually you get to a point where I think your sponsors and various other key stakeholders lose complete interest. So it's what will happen if we don't get this right that I think the Members' Council need to contemplate in the first instance. Secondly, cricket is not just owned by the cricketing fraternity. Cricket is a national sport. It's owned by the citizenry in its entirety. And that's why we are representing the mandate that the Minister gave us. The Minister represents 60 million South Africans. And that's what we're trying to get over the line here is lay a solid foundation for cricket so that the entire nation embraces it, and then you get a restoration of both your own reputation and also your standing internationally. So let me cover what could happen. Of course, the final decision here will lie with the Minister. We had to deliver on a mandate for him. We've made significant progress in 6 or 7 of the 9 areas that we were required to see through. Really significant and material progress there. The one outstanding issue of the 9 is this one that I'm referring to. And we will refer it back to the Minister next week. And I think the Minister has, without meddling in the administration of sport, because he's looking at a public good and the best interest of the entire citizenry, I would imagine he's got various options available to him. I don't want to speculate as to what those options are, but we would place the ball back in the courts of the Minister. That's where it started, and I think the Minister would have to weigh up his options that he's got available.
I mean, clinging to power past your sell-by date is unbecoming of anybody, to put it mildly. What clout does this Members' Council have, this little clique within the council, and can a light not be shined on it, and transparency and names be named, and they take it from there?
Simon, we're seeing this as a strong element of self-interest, and again, I'm referring to the eight affiliates that voted against. We don't know for certain who the 8 are, but we know that there are 5 that have put their self-interest aside and have taken the right leadership decision, because this calls for proper leadership. You know, sometimes in life you do have to give up some powers and some privilege, but you do that in the interest of the bigger picture. So those 5 affiliates that have acted in the correct and appropriate way need to be applauded and commended, because I think they are seeing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is we need to deliver a strong governance foundation for cricket that will endure a sustainable period of time, and we don't slip from one crisis to the next, as has been the case in recent times. So these 8 members, I think, have to introspect now, and I hope that in that introspection, they will see the bigger good that we are all trying to achieve here for cricket, which is to set a governance framework that all of us can be proud of, and both our domestic and international partners can also be accepting of, and we restore our reputation and credibility.
The Nicholson Report, did it have any contingency plans for administrators that wouldn't go quietly into the night, particularly from an amateur background who believed that their years and years of service to the game afforded them the opportunity to sit right on the top, at the top table? They obviously feel like this is their due, and it's quite traumatic for them to have to give up what for many is a lifetime's work. But in the interests of independence and taking the game forward, it has to be done. Did the Nicholson Report mention how you could remove administrators?
Look, firstly, Simon, Nicholson is very clear in respect to this matter. And if I were to pull out an excerpt and read it to you, you'd see it's crystal clear. There's no ambiguity that Nicholson's clear recommendation is a majority independent board. So I hear what you say about, having to give away certain things, and many of these administrators might have spent a lifetime building this up. But I don't see them giving away anything here for that matter. I see them strengthening what they have, because the board composition that we've proposed, which is entirely in line with Nicholson, and which incidentally was proposed to us by the foremost governance expert in our country, Professor Michael Katz. So Michael Katz proposed a board of 13 with 7 majority independents, 4 non-independents, and 2 executives. So the non-independents, or the administrators as they are now, most certainly have representation on the board. And another issue is that it doesn't mean that if you're an independent, that you can't take on either former sports administrators or people that have a deep understanding of cricket or any other sport for that matter. All they have to be is independent, which means they are not conflicted at that point in time. We cannot continue the status quo where you've got administrators who are representing a province or an affiliate and then also sitting on a national structure. They are immediately conflicted. So I don't see this notion of, we're giving up something or we're handing cricket over to somebody else that doesn't know anything about it. I see this as strengthening what you have and also restoring your credibility and reputation in cricket. That can only surely be good for those very administrators we're referring to, and also for the game at large. But more importantly, we should never lose sight that all these things, when they're highly visible governance failures, and unfortunately it does land up tarnishing the reputation of the country. So not only are we looking to create a governance framework for cricket, but this also helps South Africa position itself internationally.
I mean, it's an awful standoff that you find yourself in, representing the interim board, having to face this. Is there an inkling on your part that you feel like the Members' Council might realise what's at stake, how little goodwill Cricket South Africa as a whole has in the public eye, and that there just is a general need to fix the game and fix it once and for all? Or is this a case that they're sticking to their guns, they're digging in their heels?
So Simon, I think since the decision was taken and engaged some of the affiliates, and we received a very promising email this evening, actually, where one of those affiliates are reconsidering their positions. So I'm hoping that many more follow after this, because a standoff, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the minister. He needs to make his own decisions and exercise the various options he has at his disposal in terms of the Sports and Recreation Act. But I'm hoping that we don't get to exercising of any options, and we all see the bigger picture here and also see what is at stake, both for cricket and the country. So people are really cricket loving as they are claiming to be. Then I think we all need to do the right thing. And the right thing is build a solid governance foundation that will endure us and will stand the test of time for many years to come.
So when your job is done and you hand back to the ministry and you've completed the majority of the tasks, but one is not, is this going to be seen by you and the interim board as you did the best you could? Do you feel like there'll be a level of understanding that this is the problem area that needs now an extra set of eyes?
Interconnected and interlinked, and many of them actually speak to governance. There was a forensic report, the so-called Contingency report that we had to deal with, and we've addressed many of those matters. There were a number of governance failures, and some malfeasance. Those areas have been addressed. The area of transformation, the area of women's cricket, the areas of the developmental areas that we had to look at. So significant progress has been made in many areas already. And if anything is achieved with respect to the governance issue or the MRI that we've been discussing, and specifically a majority independent board, if anything is to be achieved, at very least, as you put it, we've shone a very bright light on this. And I think when those lights shine bright, you have no choice eventually, I believe, but to get on the right side of history. It speaks to also what you were saying. You might have spent a lifetime building, a particular affiliate, your involvement in the game. No one wants to take that away from anyone, but you can land up losing a lot by leaving a bad legacy behind. So I'm fairly confident as I sit here. We've had one mail with a reconsideration. I'm confident that 2 or 3 others can get over the line, and then we can just take this process forward and conclude what this board was set out to achieve in the first instance, which was to restore governance and reputation.
Dr. Stavros Nicolaou, Interim Board Chair of CSA, thank you very much for joining us. An incredibly important issue right there.